What's up, guys? Samson here with Knuckle Dragger Society. It's 105 degrees outside here in Texas. We're gonna make a quick video for y'all. We're in the shop. It is pretty hot right now. The little bit of sweat that you see is probably just gonna grow to the entire shirt by the end of the video. But we wanted to hop on here, make you a quick something to look at. A product we're seeing where there's not a whole lot of reviews on it, and kind of our take on it. We have not used these. We have no opinion right now. So we figured we'd go through it, put all the guesswork out of it for y'all and make your own conclusion on if it's worth buying or not. We're going to go over the Snakestaff Systems Everyday Carry Tourniquet. Now, these things are extremely small and portable, which is the whole concept of why they made these. You've heard it said before, I can't remember who it was that said it. He says the best tool that you have is the one that you actually have with you, the one that you have on you. Everybody knows how important a tourniquet is and learning how to apply those. However, a lot of guys have not found a good way to actually carry these things. They can be kind of cumbersome, for lack of a better term. So Snakestaff Systems thinks they found the solution for it. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. We're going to go through, we're going to test the reliability of it. We'll put the little markers at the bottom of the video and let you click through if you're looking for a specific bit of information. That way you don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to. However, what we'll do is we'll do actual application on me. We'll test it each and every time that we crank it down. It'll be a continuation. We're going to go until it breaks, probably, unless we just get to some crazy number. Realistically, you should know that if you use a tourniquet, the objective is to only use the tourniquet once. Once you apply it, you're not going to take it back off, and you definitely don't want to reuse it, just given the fact that this is made for typically a major hemorrhage. You don't want to recycle a tourniquet ever. I can't think of a situation where that's going to happen because the doctors are going to be the ones removing it. We don't believe in backing them off. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. We have two different models here from Snakestaff. One is a 1-inch version. It is the smallest version that we have, and one is an 1.5 inch version. Now, it's just slightly thicker, if you can see it right here. It's not a significant difference. However, I will tell you, if this is something you're going to carry in your back pocket, you're going to throw it in your front pocket next to your wallet, which you can do. I'll show you some items that you'd keep in your pocket. This is extremely small. This one's still very small comparatively to a tourniquet. I'll pull one out here a little bit later. Essentially, what you're looking at is this right here is a CRKT pocket knife. This is one that I carry daily. It is on the larger side of pocket knives. However, just to show you a comparison, this tourniquet is a little bit shorter and about the same width as that actual knife itself. So this is something you could absolutely throw in that front pocket or back pocket and probably not notice it. And it's a tourniquet that you're keeping on you. 75% chance of ensuring someone's survival if they're dealing with a massive hemorrhage on an extremity if you get it on prior to shock. That's pretty important, and it can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be because you're in a non-permissive environment overseas or your profession as an officer. This could be driving while in a car and your child applies it on you or you apply it on your child, depending on their age. It could literally be because you work in a shop, something like this. It could be for anything that would cause any type of type 1 trauma, trauma 1 to your body. So pretty massive game changer if they end up being good quality. So let's go into all the features of these. All right. We talked about the size, obviously the portability of both of these. Now, the features that I'm going to name on both of these things, or on one, is going to be the same for the other, okay? So that being said, we'll talk about the things that make these different. They are the same length as a normal, I believe, Cat Gen 7 tourniquet. I'll measure it ourselves to make sure. However, this is still folded up. I'll go ahead and pull it all the way out and show you that the length is allegedly the same based off of what they're claiming. I might have gone out of frame there, I apologize. What they did right here for the windlass, they made the windlass gnarled, I guess. It actually has texture to it, so it gives you a better purchase on that. They made the actual portion of where it clips, the windlass will clip actually into a carabiner style clip, so you're not going to be able to remove it out. It can't pop back out from pressure or anything like that. They also added in a chem light on the side, and it breaks on application. It's not something that you have to physically think about or click. They added this in because obviously some of these events occur at night, and having that ID marker of literally being able to see where it was directly applied is great. Now, one thing that they like to emphasize, again, I don't have the science or data on this, but this is what the Snakestaff claims. The webbing inside of this also has a webbing that as you tighten that windlass, it's going to curl up with it. One of those things is one of the things they claim is that the inside of most of these conventional tourniquets is that the webbing inside is 1 inch in width. This is 1 inch also. I don't know if the webbing inside this one is 1.5 inches or if that's an inch, but that is what they claim. So what they're basically saying is that the indentation of application. So once you apply this and start applying pressure and cranking it down, they're saying that there's an indentation pattern that's from that inside nylon webbing. It's the same as most of your conventional tourniquets. I'm assuming they're referencing a Cat Gen 7, but I'm not sure. We'll go ahead, we'll start cranking this thing down. But before I do, I'm gonna pull this one up and I'll show you another one next to a soft tee. A soft tee is what I typically carry when I'm gonna carry a tourniquet. Ed Calderon had a great video. It's not something I came up with. He had a great video of how he carries these tourniquets. He actually opens them up, doesn't tighten them down or anything, and carries them appendix style next to his concealed carry rig. And that seems to be really good. Never got in the way. However, with shorts, it was not a practical application for something. So I found myself only carrying a tourniquet part of the time. I think I actually have one in here. Let's just pull that up. All right, yep. So right here is a soft tee, and right here is the 1.5 inch tourniquet. That is significantly smaller. Now the profile thickness is about the same on this one. Again, this is a soft tee, not a Cat Gen 7. Still great standard, slightly different. Everyone's got their opinions, but you can see compared to this, folded up. All right, folded up. Next to it, you can see this is insanely small. It packs down significantly smaller, much more portable, much more efficient. And typically, let me go ahead and measure it. All right. So the actual measurements are coming out to 4.5 to 5 inches on these when they're packed up, ready to go in your pocket. And this is almost 7. Now this one could be packed in a little tighter. You could probably get that down to 6.5, 6. However, again, not always a 100% carry option. So if this ends up going well with the tests, be a pretty big game changer. All right, we'll go ahead and start with the first test of cranking these things down. I'm going to talk about the general application, how it feels. We have applied a lot of tourniquets to ourselves. It's something that we push a lot with our training. We like officers and civilians both to be very knowledgeable in tourniquet application under stress. So what we're going to do is go ahead and I'll apply this to myself and we'll see how it goes. All right, so pre-test, things that we're going to actually document for you guys and let you know kind of the degradation, if you will, of as we go along the way. We're going to see how many times we go until this breaks, or if it does break at all. Pretty much anything over 10 of these, I'm going to be cranking it down to full capacity. So we know that the pre-length, or the pre-test length of this is 38 inches right now. So knowing that, we're going to crank it down, go all the way. We'll see how many turns it takes on a windlass. If you're pulling this thing tight, like a normal Cat Gen 7, typically we're only getting 2 to 3 turns out of this before we're getting that pure occlusion of this type thing. So, or stopping that blood flow into your arm. So that being said, we'll let you know. We'll start seeing, you know, if that windlass or the strap to the windlass starts to flex and we get way more turns out of it. I'm going to crank it down to the same capacity every single time. I'm stopping the blood each time. Probably gonna be a little sore, but we'll go ahead and we'll get on it. We'll keep you updated on that, and let's also see if this chem light breaks. All right. So that being said, all right. First test. We'll go ahead. We'll slap it on. We're gonna crank it. Same thing as before. We're gonna go high and tight. High and tight over this thing. And I will tell you right now, just based off of putting that on my arm, the surface area of that width is definitely more prominent. I'm very aware of that. It's not as comfortable as putting that on. So there's one turn. And the chem light still has not broken yet, but I'll tell you right now that that's a full stoppage now. That windlass is on. And that is tight. I'll tell you, that is a significant more amount of pressure over a smaller surface area than what I feel when we apply the actual Cat Gen 7s. Now this is a full application. If I were to go for one more, there's no way I get that windlass. To my knowledge, that chem light did not break on application based off of what I'm seeing. Does it look like it broke back there? Doesn't look like it, right? Okay. So it was 2 turns. We're gonna leave it stretch for a minute. And we'll get back with you just in a second. We're gonna jump off and we'll actually measure it again to see if there was any stretch in that. And I'll let you know. All right, so we just measured this again. It held right at 38. Now, if I was applying this to someone else, or really applying it to me, would I go for an extra turn? It's hard to really say. For sure, I was getting that complete blood flow cut off right there. I can feel it even now. But maybe you go for one more, so the stretch might be there. Hard to say. However, we did not see any stretch as far as that windlass ribbon right there. The windlass held fine. I didn't feel a lot of flex when I was putting it on. And the length of the actual tourniquet itself is still the same length. 2 things that we figured out. One, actually clipping that into the carabiner, unless you really push it to a specific side internally here, that carabiner is not wanting to clip straight down. It's easy to do when it's not on your arm. When it's on your arm, it was a little bit different. Just food for thought. It's still going to hold inside of the actual catch there, but just something to recognize. The other thing was we had mentioned the glow stick didn't break on application that last time, and then previously we had mentioned that that was something they claimed that would happen. Chris was able to look at this and say, hey, it looks like the chem light had actually slid to one side there for the versus the other. There's a little bit of play in here. I can push it down and I can push it back up. There's a flex in this. I don't know. It didn't break on that one. We'll see if it breaks or when it breaks, and we'll let you guys know. However, just know that that's not a guarantee. As you saw, we just cranked it down. It didn't go. So when it's in your pocket, is there any guarantee that that's not going to spread out or even possibly fall out? I know they sell replacements for these. Again, if you use this once, you shouldn't really be buying a replacement. So just food for thought, but we'll go ahead. We'll go up for application 2. Then after application 2, what's going to happen is a lot of this is going to happen off screen. We're going to document. I'm going to crank it down, go up to 5. We'll go from 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 to 15. I'll probably cap it at 20. And then I'll give you the information on that. All right. So for tourniquet number 2, here's what we're looking at. By the way you wrap these is a little more, a little different than the cats. Those are typically at the head and you weave it through. This is at the base of this. And the windlass tightens as you tighten. I don't know how to describe that. There's a lot of play in this. However, once you actually pull this tourniquet tight, it tightens that windlass down to being close to the actual lock-in portion. So a little bit of a different design here. Just something to factor in, something to notice. All right, same thing, high and tight. We're really gonna crank this thing down. Okay, see how many turns we get, same as before, hopefully. And that windlass portion, that's 1. All right, that time the carabiner clipped right in without any issues. You know what? I feel like I don't want to go for 3, but I feel like to do y'all justice, I need to try. It's one thing for me to say, it's another thing just to go for it. Yep, I can get 3. I can get 3, all right. So we're getting warping right here at that clip-in portion, and that is putting a crap ton of tension on my arm. I'm actually getting a pretty severing pain underneath the bicep there. Okay, just food for thought. That did warp that system right there. I don't know if you can see this. It is actually bowing and lifting with me. The chem light definitely broke this time. It pulled that all the way to me, and I'm not able to actually clip it in. So that's not typically a good thing. Just something to note right there. And that was a third pull on that one. Based off of that, that makes me not feel comfortable with it. This definitely broke this time. But dude, I'm telling you right now that this literally bent like this, and this would not clip in when it was on the arm. That's why we do this, right? All right, guys. So I told you we'd come back at 5. I'm a liar. We're gonna go ahead and do 3. The reason this is gonna be the 3rd application is on the 2nd application, once I really cranked it down to its max on what we were gonna get on my arm, there's pretty heavy warping right in here. You can see that this actually flexes. And what happened is with the negative pressure coming on this end and this end, we weren't able to warp it like this. It was warping sideways, and I wasn't actually able to clip it directly in like that. That's a pretty big deal breaker in my opinion for a self-application tourniquet. But just to give you guys further information, that is why we're here. I'm gonna have Chris come and actually apply it to my right arm, not my left arm. That thing is hurting right now. So just quick synopsis of where we're at right now. Chem light did break on that application. It did not on the first. However, maybe I didn't quite crank it down enough. We were able to clip it into the carabiner the first time on our first application, but we found out I could actually go a little more than that, but it took focus. On the other tourniquet applications, we're seeing you can drop it pretty much directly into that catch without any issues. I'm having to focus on this one. That could be a deal breaker in and of itself. But once it's under the carabiner, it's saved, right? It's not going to come out for sure. So it's something to notice or to take note of. Other carabiners, people are actually wrapping the excess of the ribbon around the windlass to hold it in place. It's a tried and true method, but I get it, the innovation behind this was smart. Unfortunately, I think that the breaking point is the flexibility that comes into this. You can see right here, the chem light just pops right out. We can leave the chem light out for now, but you can see that there's a lot of flex here. So taking a note of that, I'm gonna have Chris come and actually apply it to my right arm this time for this. No, I could not self-apply it once I cranked it down real good. We're gonna see if a secondary party applying this to someone else can crank it down good and then actually take out that flex that's in here to clip it into the windlass itself. So high and tight. Yeah, go for it. Get that nice and tight on there. More. Good, right there. Hello. Yeah, screw it, do it right. That's the flex we need.
Right there?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can get it if you, physically warp it back. Yeah. Okay. So for self-application, this is probably not going to happen. It is insanely tight right now. I mean, that's mere seconds, and I don't know if you can see kind of where that's at. Yes, the excess, you can wrap it here. You don't need to. It's definitely saved right there by the actual carabiner itself. However, he had to actually push negative pressure going the other way from that warpage where that carabiner's at and then focus on clipping it in a specific angle, yes. Yep. Take that information for what you will. Would you rather have a tourniquet with you that you can get for an application for someone else and maybe get a self-application? Or not have one at all, or have the one that you carry 50-50. Not saying don't get it, not saying do. It's kind of up to you. You know, we were being all complicated with taking this off last time. But, you know, we'll keep going. We'll go until this one breaks. I'm not going to document up to, I'll just run it to 10 now. I'll tell you where the flexion points are if the ribbon starts to stretch. But right now we're seeing for self-application, that is giving us difficulty, and for a second party putting it on someone else, it's doable, but the same problem is presenting itself, yes? Yep. Okay, so take that for what it is. We'll get back with you on the data of going, or when it breaks, or if it breaks. So, and we're starting to see a significant, we'll check the ribbon stretch now, because that's definitely starting to go a little bit. So, all right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, before we give you the findings for this tourniquet, we did discover something while we were using it. It's not necessarily a good thing. However, it does clear up some of the issues we were having. As we were cranking these down, self-application, and when Chris came over here, naturally, just given the fact that we've trained these a very non-specific way, I would actually argue, it's just something we naturally were doing, we would crank the windlass clockwise. We found out by reps like 7, 8, 9, and 10 that if you crank this counterclockwise, it actually mitigates the warping that we were seeing in that clamp area, and it allows that windlass to click into the carabiner literally with no issues whatsoever, effortlessly, without any thought. Does that mean that this tourniquet's good to go? Not necessarily, however, it is something that if you train specifically, it's a workaround for the issue. Just take that into notes, and we'll give it with you on the results of the actual strength testing and the flexing in just a second. All right, so as far as the flexing goes, when we got to rep 4, it was the same as rep 3. It was 38.5 inches. So at that point, we had gained half an inch in our ribbon flex. Same for that windlass ribbon. However, they're tied together, so understand when we're saying 1. If we see 1, we're probably naturally going to see the other. 4 and 5 are the same, 38.5. By rep 10, we were getting an extra 1/4 inch, so 38.75 inches by the end of this. Same thing, like I said, in the ribbon flex. So, what are our thoughts on this tourniquet? Listen, for something like this is something incredibly important to understand, not necessarily this specific one, but tourniquet application. This is something that you are saying that you trust to save people's lives. That could be your own, that could be your wife or your husband, or that could be your children. It could also just be a third party. We take that extremely serious, and we're here to give you an honest review about what we're finding. So if you watch everything we're saying and say, hey, listen, they had these issues, but it was stopping the bleeding. There was a workaround for the issues that they identified, and it's still better than carrying nothing at all. Great, that is the liability that you'll take on your own. And again, it'll probably work as long as you apply the workarounds that we had. The concept of a tourniquet is that it's supposed to be very simple in application. 20 seconds or less for an actual application of that tourniquet. That being said, knowing that those are your time frames, there's going to be stress that we aren't typically induced to whenever we're practicing. Do you really want to have something as specific as having a counterclockwise motion when you apply the tourniquet to make sure that you can put that on your loved one or yourself or someone else? That's totally up to you. I'm not saying it's useless. This tool works when applied properly. So do the soft tees. You could not put on a soft tee correctly and it wouldn't do its job. Same for a Cat Gen 7. So are there trainings that are required for these? Yes. But I would argue for the other two that they're very simplistic in nature. And it's pretty simple as pulling it extremely tight before you put the Velcro on, turning the windlass 2 to 3 times until they're pretty much screaming on the other side, and then clipping it in. That's pretty simple in nature, and you can do it under a lot of stress and low light environments. Remembering something as specific as counterclockwise motion is, again, not necessarily an absolute no, but it is something you're going to have to be very specific in your training and make sure that you're doing that the same way every single time. So again, I'm not going to say that we necessarily recommend this product. I'm also saying that it does work if used properly. Am I speaking out of both sides of my mouth? Yes, but I'm just here to give you the information that we're finding as we're using it. So take that for what you will. It's not necessarily a win. It's not necessarily a loss. However, if you're going to buy these and depend your life and someone else's life to something like this, buy 2, buy 3, whatever the deal is, it's $30. $30 is nothing compared to practicing anything. That's an extremely cheap training. And it's also very, very little to nothing to save a human life. Understand that that is literally what you're wanting to carry this for. Obviously, you have some understanding of it. You wouldn't have made it this far in the video. So, do we recommend it? Not necessarily. Are we saying it works if done correctly? Yes. If you're gonna buy it, please buy a practice one and actually practice it again and again and again. We made it to over 10 and it hasn't broken yet. So, food for thought. Take it for what it is, but that's our honest review of the Snakestaff EDC tourniquet.